Hi, welcome to A1R Radio, my show, my segment every week, Insights into Consciousness with Anna Olsen. I am here every Tuesday, 1:30 Pacific Standard Time, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. And today I'm going to do a reading on the air. But first, I just wanted to do what I love to do, and that is just to kind of like keep people updated on the happenings of anything going on right now. I like to go into planets just because there is valid facts to what happens to us when the planets are doing something and their positions. So I think it really takes like getting used to looking at the way that the planets are aligned and the mathematical equations involved in the universe and how the solar system works for people to fully appreciate why that would make any difference in our lives at all. And the fact of the matter is that I have found that it really does make a difference. And it can be nice to look at what's happening with the alignment of the planets and the moon and just stop and think about how that might affect us and then to prepare for it. It's always good to be prepared, right? So I really urge you to kind of just start to follow the basics, and that can help you to prepare for things that are going on. Now, right now, last night, I made a video on my TikTok account, which is Anna O, that's two N's, ANNAO, intuitive. So you put the little @ sign in the search bar, and then you do Anna O intuitive, and my page will pop up. And I did do a little segment there just explaining in detail what's going on with Lionsgate right now. It's actually happening from July 28th to August 12th. And last night was August 8th, which is basically the peak of Lionsgate. And we use this time basically as people who know the reasoning of the universe and why we should care based on ancient studies from Mesopotamia, Babylonians, Egyptians. It's a basic knowledge for thousands of years for many people who follow it, and they have an advantage. And I want to give you the advantage. I want you to be able to have an advantage for your life and what you want to plan and create for your environment and your life. So last night was the peak of the portal. That means that that's the time to manifest. And we still have until the 12th. We still have until August 12th, 2022 to manifest and set goals. The way you do this, just in simple terms, is you write down exactly what you would like to create as if it's already happened. And then you say it out into the universe. Some people go outside. Some people will put it on a piece of paper and burn it. And then it's kind of symbolic or maybe energetic, where the smoke will rise up into the atmosphere and send your message to the universe to make it happen. And I like to really tell people about this river of information that I tap into regularly when I do readings, and it just goes straight around our planet. It is part of the solar system as a whole. It is made up of intelligence, and it's a river of intelligence that flows around our planet. It does have a lot to do with the universal vibe and the universal consciousness of the planet, which just means what is the frequency on today? This can go all the way from like the entire planet down to a country, down to a city, down to a house. And it can all flow together. It's important that we know this because I think this education can really help people understand that if they're feeling really blah, or there's something going on, they just can't put their finger on it, or they've had a really bad week, a lot of other people are also dealing with the same thing. The planetary alignments can really have a lot to do with that. The first thing that I would advise you to really look at, just to Google, a nice, plain, simple Google, is Mercury in retrograde, but all retrogrades basically will affect us in some way. And we just went through a heck of a time with 6 planets in retrograde. But the good thing is that right afterwards we have Lionsgate. So it kind of helps us process all this stuff with all these retrogrades. And then suddenly when we have the Lionsgate portal, we're able to manifest what we want. We're able to send the things that we want up into this river that goes around the universe. It's kind of like this universal consciousness. You send it out there, and that can make things happen. I wouldn't ever discount how powerful we are, how powerful our thoughts are. And if you really want to manifest all the good things to come, this is the way to do it. This is the time to do it, especially until the 12th. Of course, you can do it anytime. And especially around the new moon is a great time to set goals. You can do it anytime, but really there are planetary alignments and things going on year round that we can take advantage of. And if you know the math and you know the reasoning behind it, that it isn't just a bunch of woo-woo, that there's some concrete evidence to this, based on people's experiences, based on mathematical equations, based on lots of things. And now even NASA is recognizing horoscopes and all these retrogrades and things as affecting us, since we know just basically that the moon, full moons especially, affect human beings. We know this because it affects magnetically the water. You can look at the ocean and say, oh, the tide is changing due to the full moon and the new moon. It changes. Well, we are made up mostly of water. What does that tell you? If there's an electromagnetic or a magnetic pull to water, what does that mean around the full moon? It means it affects our hormones, which basically affect all human behavior. So any emotion that we feel is in response to a thought or something in our environment that creates a hormonal exchange or production. That hormone will dictate how we feel physiologically. This is also tied into our spirit. Anatomically, we have a spirit body, which is also tied to our physical body, and they're all tied together. And it's really important to know how these things are affecting us and those around us. And I would just like to go further to explain that when we put substances into our bodies, everything from food and our diet and our hydration level to our substances such as alcohol, marijuana, other street drugs, or even pharmaceuticals, that is all playing a part in this holistic element of health, mental health, and our behavior. So when they say behavior is 100% choice, I would like to align with that. But in addition, I would like to also include sometimes behavior is highly influenced by these external circumstances, forces, magnetic poles, or substances, even pharmaceuticals. A lot of people, for some reason, have not been educated on the fact that, especially medications for mental health, if you're coming off of them quickly or you're coming off like as a withdrawal, you get withdrawal symptoms, which heavily affect behavior, and can even, in some instances, cause hallucinations or delusions and lack of sleep and things like that. So, or even physical sickness, illness, nausea, things like that, headache. So I think it's really important for people to understand that they can't really trust the source of who's trying to sell them these things as a good guide. I think it's good to know like what research has been had and all of that about it, like from people's personal experiences, and then go by your own personal experience and talk very closely to your doctor about those experiences. Half the time they won't even know what you're talking about. Other doctors who have more experience with these mental health medications will know exactly what you're talking about, or will be able to help you to slowly come off of them if you feel the need to start another one, or if you just want to come off your medication and replace it with things like diet, exercise, meditation, yoga, whatever, and of course it's not bad to take medications. It's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying do it responsibly, like anything else. Any other substance that you put into your body, you have to know what you're doing. I've never drank growing up. I've never been an alcohol person because I know the dangers spiritually in that. And not to judge anybody who does, but just to say, I have no idea how to drink. I don't do it because I wouldn't know what it does to my body, really. I don't have experience in that. And I don't really know how long to wait to drive. I don't know how anything. I just don't know. So I am not going to run off without knowing what I'm doing and start drinking at a bar and try to drive home. That would be ridiculous. So this is the same concept, that we don't put things into our bodies, including food additives, where you're not reading labels and things like that, without knowing the full consequences or what to look for. Because some people's physiology will align beautifully with some of these additives that they put in food, and they'll be fine and they'll just detox it within a month. And other people are going to have a serious neurological effect or physiological they'll have symptoms from food additives, even like red dye is one of the things that they found can significantly be problematic, especially for children neurologically, or even adults. There's just all these different things that we really need to explore and just be well aware of before we put things into our bodies. And I would even go as far as to say that energy can affect our bodies very negatively. If you're around somebody who is toxic, or you just feel awful after you're around them, they tend to make little remarks or things, and you're like, every time I'm around this person, I feel terrible or I have a bad week. You know how you feel after an interaction with somebody. You can stop and think to yourself, did that person affect me negatively, or do I feel better now that I've been around them? And most people are good and most people have a great effect on this, but there are those people that we really need to either take in small doses or just set really clear boundaries on for our own mental health and well-being. And unfortunately, sometimes that can be family. And, all family have different personalities within their family unit. And that's nothing to be ashamed of if you need to set boundaries on someone in your own family. It's very common. I think the majority of people that I work with, that's their biggest issue is having to set boundaries on people in their family and to know what they can and can't do. And knowing your capabilities and what's good or bad for you is actually a strength. It's not a weakness, and nobody should be shamed for that, especially in the sense of, oh, so and so is your mother or your father or your uncle, or you don't have to put up with any sort of negativity or mistreatment just because you share some of the same genetics or family line or adoption or something like that. There's literally no reason for anybody to put themselves in harm's way, and literally change the trajectory of their life path permanently because they have guilt over somebody else's opinion. I think in that instance, it's a good idea to tell that person with that opinion, this is my reasoning, this is my choice, and we're going to leave it at that and set a boundary on them. And in that instance, you're also teaching that person how to set boundaries and being a great example for them so that maybe they can try to initiate that in the future, or they can at least start to understand that respecting boundaries is important. So I know I just threw a lot at you. You can always rewatch this video and go back and kind of figure out, what I was talking about. I go kind of quickly because I want to make sure I take full advantage of my time here on the air. But I also want to talk about how crystals can actually aid in healing in our energetic fields. So we have started to understand that this isn't just, those crystal gripping hippie things that Native American once told me. Like people who believe in the crystals and all that are like crystal gripping hippies and they scare him. I thought it was that was a funny perspective when I was speaking to a Native American man, but it is more than that to me. I am really keen on understanding how this works and learning more about the science behind it because I am very factual based. A lot of my experiences in working with anything is how does it affect me? How does it affect the loved ones around me? That is my test subject, myself. If I grab a crystal and I love it and it makes me feel good and I know that it's good for my electromagnetic field, that's my proof. If I, for instance, what happened, this is the reason why I even believe in crystals, is that my son, when he was smaller, we all went to the lake and he went into the river and he grabbed a jade. He found a jade stone, which was exciting, right? And it was this beautiful green color. And on the way out, I had a dehydration headache. So I'm driving and I'm like, oh dear, I have a headache. I should have drank more water earlier in the day. We had a long trip home. And he's like, well, mom, just put this jade to your forehead. And I was like, okay, sweetheart, I thought it was the cutest thing. Of course, I'm going to put the jade to my forehead because, it's cute. And I put the jade to my forehead and my headache went away within 10 seconds. My headache was gone completely. And my son was looking at me like, told you so. So don't ever underestimate things that just aren't studied or researched well enough yet. Your research is your experience. So I have a caller now. I believe it's Cindy on the air. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Are you in New Jersey?
I am
Oh, okay. How is it out there? Is it warm?
warm, very warm.
Okay. Well, what can I do for you today? What would you like me to focus on? Do you have a question or?
I wouldn't say I have a question. Everything, is going pretty good with me right now, excepting that part of my life, my love life. Is there anything that you can tell me about what's going on
I sure can.
regarding my love life?
Yes. Well, first of all, Spirit is showing me that this has been a really difficult thing for you, the relationship part
Mm-hmm.
of your life.
Yes.
I mean, you say you have a little trouble with it, and Spirit is saying this has been a very heavy burden for you. So
Yep.
that's the first thing that Spirit's showing me. And we tend to kind of downplay, our what we're struggling with, for obvious reasons. But it's just Spirit is showing me this is a very heavy thing for you that you have dealt with one disappointment and kind of like a traumatic experience after the next. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And the thing is that Spirit is saying that so far you've been settling for certain behaviors where it's more or less, it's not even like the person that you're with at the time doesn't care about you or really, really love you. It's that they have their own things they're dealing with. And that when you're making these connections, you're kind of not seeing the long term consequences of the things they deal with.
Hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and it's more or less like having an understanding of looking at the trajectory of your life path if you're with this person and what these initial things that you're coming across may turn into, such as like, I mean, I'll just use an example of like if I really don't think that I could ever deal with somebody drinking or having a problem with
Yeah.
alcohol, I would probably want to date somebody who doesn't drink. And so I think Spirit is just
Okay.
showing
Uh-huh.
yeah, Spirit is just showing me that sometimes I think maybe that you're just kind of overlooking some things. It's not your fault. It's just kind of a pattern. And it's basically like you're trying, what I'm seeing is like a balancing money and I know sometimes when Spirit comes through with these things, it's hard for us to hear because I know I've had to hear these things myself. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but Spirit's showing me, that this is really just like a thing about balancing getting your emotional needs met and your financial needs met. Um,
Hmm.
so right now I'm kind of thinking about something that I was going over with a client earlier, and that was that when we are in a relationship, now are you married long term or in a long term relationship or are you dating?
I was married to, my husband for 22 years and put up with ah a lot of nonsense with him and his family, and so I am currently not in a relationship, but I started seeing someone about a year later, and so that has been on and off, and I'm not sure what's happening right now. There hasn't been
Mhm.
any contact for some time. So, you know, I wouldn't say I have been in a lot of relationships, two or three, and but just have no luck. Um, you know, um,
Well,
does just doesn't matter what I do, to keep things together. It just,
it's a hard thing to get through a 22-year marriage, and you said that he put you through a lot.
yeah,
So not only are you
a lot.
recovering, it's like you're new to the dating pool, and it's so much different than 22 years ago. And
Uh-huh.
I can imagine that would be really hard to navigate. And there are a lot of people yeah, on social media and things like that where they guide people through how to weed through the ones that are wasting your time.
Uh-huh.
And I think that you're like me. We're probably very similar because I've been with my husband 20 years, and I can attest to the fact that I would be terrified to go date. If I weren't with my husband, I would be terrified because, and I'm not telling you to be terrified. I'm just saying that it's almost like relearning an entire new construct of dating. And there's, websites and all of these other things. There's so many decisions to be made all at once rather than just meeting a really nice person and then kind of picking your favorite. It's like kind of confusing, I think. And a lot of people use means of texting and these cell phones to just leave somebody hanging.
Uh-huh.
And the idea that somebody is just not, I mean, did this man just not get back to you? Is that what happened? Like he just hasn't had contact with
No,
you?
mm-mm. we have, we have been talking, well, in a relationship for the last 2 years, and just going through a lot of ups and downs, and just not seeing eye to eye with certain things, and we kind of like, okay, just let it be for a bit. So I'm not sure where that's going. I'm not sure if we're even going to even make contact with each other again. I'm not sure. I'm just letting it be. I am not one to push anything or to, so I'm just letting it be. And that's what I'm trying to figure out, if it's something that I should pursue or just let it go. I just don't know.
Hmm. Well, it
I
does
mean, I
feel
know
pretty.
he's going through a whole lot, and having a really hard time trying to figure things out for himself. Um, but I know the love is there, on both ends. But like I said, I've been in a relationship, a marriage for 22 years. I just don't want to, you know, kind of go through anything like that again. So I'm kind of protecting myself in some ways, you know. So I'm not sure if I should pick up the phone and give him a call, or if I'm going to hear from him. I'm not sure. I'm just trying to look for some guidance, and.
I understand. I think that you sound very level-headed. You sound really wise. You sound like you really know what you're doing for the most part. And I feel like spirit, the thing that I got from spirit just now is to tell you that it's always good when things aren't working out with one person. You're kind of spending all of your focus on that one person, and then you kind of get tunnel vision, like that's the only person. So spirit is saying go ahead and date around, just get to know a few people, a quick coffee date, if that, and that just makes it nice and gradual and no pressure. It's just really nice. And I know sometimes we feel like, well, we've been with this person and we are taking a break, but I think if you kind of knew what else was out there, it would give you some leverage with the contrast to kind of see what's out there, who's out there, and how, there is a lot of variety. There's like over 7 billion people on this planet, and you have a lot to choose from. So spirit is urging you to open up your heart and your possibilities a little bit more, but always be careful and don't have expectations, because this is a whole new human being with all these faults and good things, and we have to pick and choose which faults we're willing to live with, and it's a process. So spirit is just saying you will find the person who you will be very compatible with, but it will just take time, and it will take kind of like shopping around. It's like, if you like, I don't mean to like compare humans to shoes, but like, you want that perfect pair of shoes, and you sometimes have to go to like a few different places to get the ones that really work. And this is really just shopping around and making sure that you get the best possible option for the best deal.
Hmm. Okay.
So that's what spirit's showing me for you. But I do see that you will find him. You will find the person that you need. I do not think this person that you've been seeing is the person for long term, but I always like go back and make sure people know every person you come in contact with is there for a reason. And they teach us something. They could be
Yes.
sometimes
Yes. Absolutely.
transitional. Yeah, they're sometimes a transitional person, and sometimes they're just there to guide us to the right person. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're not worth anything. They're very valuable to our lives, and they're very important. And you are also to them. You are very important to him. You've made a huge positive influence on his life. And I think that's important to remember, that it's not a waste of your time in this instance. And I think more or less what is a waste of our time is when we're dealing with somebody who's there to manipulate us, or, anyone in our lives, to manipulate, to use us, to play with our emotions and our mind to get their needs met, with a total disregard to our needs.
Yes, I
So
agree.
that is what, I think is the thing to kind of watch out for in today's dating pool. But I think that you're so, balanced, and you seem to reason very well. So I think that
Mhm.
worries me more when I hear like somebody getting out of like a 30-year marriage and they're devastated because the first guy that they went out with just ghosted them completely, and they feel so duped and ridiculous, and they, it was like the first time they had the courage to actually make contact with somebody, and they didn't want to seem too vulnerable, or they told the
Hmm.
person very vulnerable, and the person just completely, just completely disregards their emotions entirely. So that's really what I'm more worried about. You seem like you're going to do just fine. I think you have a lot of life experience, but Spirit is showing me this is part of your healing journey to be with this man that you're talking about now, and that
Hmm.
you have more work to do before you'll be with your person long term.
Okay. Thank you.
Well,
Well, thank you very much for your for the reading. Thank you so much.
you're welcome. Is there anything else I can do for you?
No, that's about it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for calling in.
You too. You too. Bye bye.
Okay, bye. So sometimes I do have to deliver some message from Spirit for people that is, kind of hard to take. And I did get that vibe from her when I was telling her that she's picking guys that are basically not always going to meet her needs. They have issues, and she's kind of overlooking the red flags. I think that she'll do a good job, but she kind of needed to hear that because that's part of her own learning. And I know that I've had to do the same in my past. So it is hard to hear, and it is kind of hard for sometimes for people to like get that message. But in the long term, it's good to hear. And it's important to know that being a people pleaser when you're dating is not going to help, and it's not good, because dating is an exchange, and dating is going to be an energetic exchange. And so if you're not learning from the person temporarily as a kind of like a transitional person, it's really important to look at that person as long term. And if they aren't long term, and they're playing with you or whatever, they're just ghosting or dropping out of your life, then you definitely don't want to waste your time, because there are a lot of manipulators out there. There are a lot of people who don't even realize that they have the issues that they have, and it's our job to protect ourselves from that. So anyway, that's my time for today. I have another show next Tuesday at 1:30 Pacific Standard Time here on A1R. And I thank you so much for joining me today. You can always reach me at annaolsenintuitive.com if you'd like a reading, or if you'd like to work with me. I also do life coaching, and I teach people how to use their intuition. I'm also at Anna Olsen Intuitive on Facebook, Tiny Medium Queendom on Instagram, and Anna O Intuitive on TikTok, which is my biggest platform right now with my biggest following. So I have a lot of educational stuff there for you for free. So thanks so much for listening. You can always contact me via this video too. So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week.